Okay, what is up guys? In today's video I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to play Yakuza 0's Real Estate Royal Management. So let's get right into it here. Essentially when you first start off, you're given the Leisure Kings area to kind of practice and hone your skills, and there's a total of 5 different kings that you have to overtake. So this is sort of like the first tier out of 5. But before I move on to how to invest and all that, I want to kind of break down the types of staff members that there are. So there's a total of 3. There's a manager, there's a guard, and there's an advisor. So let's get right into their statistics and all that. So essentially for managers, they have a financial savvy and they have a economic influence. So the financial savvy, which is represented by a star and a number, is a representation of the tier. So 1 star being the lowest and 5 stars being the highest. The financial savvy also serves as a health bar. So when you do get challenged to a money battle by the bosses, these represents the health bar. So you know, 1 star would be 1 health bar. 5 stars would be. When you're first starting off early game, you're not really going to attract that much attention until you keep doing it more and more, and then you'll encounter them, and then that's when the financial savvy will kind of come into play. But for now, when you're first starting off, don't really get too worked up on that, I guess. Just kind of focus on the second tab, which is called the economic influence. So essentially this red square is a representation of the day. So I think in total you can hire the managers a total of 5 times, or 5 different days, or the 5 same, like you can hire them 5 times essentially per week, I believe. And essentially the idea is that you should focus on the negatives, or I'm sorry, this is a live com, so I'm kind of fucking up already because I usually my videos are pre-recorded. But anyways, essentially the idea is that you should focus on positive numbers and neutral numbers. So, and the reason why is because neutral numbers, it means that nothing would happen. Positive number means that you'll see an increase, and negative numbers means that you'll see a decrease. So if I hire him on the first day, I'm not going to see much, but if I keep him for the second and third day, that's probably the most beneficial. But if I keep him like the 4th day and the 5th day, I'm going to start seeing a decrease in his performance. And you can obviously switch him out too for someone that, is more suitable for the job, and you can kind of see, who works best and all that kind of stuff. So that's the gist of a manager. So to recap, financial savvy is a health bar for the money battles, and then the economic influences, or pretty much days, and numbers represent how efficient they are, so per day. So always keep in mind, for managers, always keep in mind the amount of days they're using them for, and also the numbers and all that. So now with that being said, let's move on to the guards here. So for the guards, they have this thing called problem solving, which is essentially how good they are at doing their jobs when they are when you're taking over a king's property. So when you have 1 star, it means they're the weakest, and it means that you're going to have more interferences with the kings, because 1 star is like the lowest tier. Whereas if you have someone who has 5 stars, it means that they're a much higher tier, and the kings are going to find it a lot harder to invade your property and that kind of stuff. And the safety influence essentially is more or less the same thing like the manager. It's how efficient they are at doing their job. So when they're not, preventing the kings from attacking you and all that kind of stuff, essentially represents how good they are at actually doing the other job, which is protecting the area. So if I hire him on the first day, I'm going to see a -1 decrease, meaning I might have more altercations with random people and all that kind of stuff. But if I keep him for the second day, I might have less problems on that day, and then the 3rd day, the 4th day, and the 5th day, I'm going to see an overall decrease. So I'd probably switch him out after the second day, because the rest of the week essentially is going to be a lot of commotion going on, because this guy can't do this job very, very well. And finally, with the advisors, the ability rank is more of a tier. It doesn't really mean much. It's just kind of there to showcase how good they are. But what you do want to focus on is the support ability. So essentially, each business has a different icon representing what types of businesses there are. So for instance, you have a restaurant, you have a market, you have a like an entertainment area, I guess a hotel, and a infrastructure design. So essentially in the game, there's a total of 4 different icons that you have to keep in mind when you're dealing with advisors. So you have a circle. So 1 circle, hold on, let's get started here. So circles means that it's the best. It's the best one. It's the highest tier. One circle means they're the second best. Triangle is neutral. Again, they're not good. They're not bad. And an X is pretty much they're not suitable for a job. So to recap quickly, for managers, don't focus on a financial savvy until you start taking more properties, and then depending on how good your security is, you might want to keep this in mind. Just always keep this financial savvy in mind, but don't really linger on it too much. I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's kind of like you want to care about it, but you really shouldn't. So this is only important for money battles, but other than that, it's kind of useless. What you do want to focus on is the economic influences. So make sure that each time this red dot or this red square moves, make sure that you look at that number that it's currently positioned in. Because again, the higher the number, the more money you can get, and the lower the number, the less amount of money. And circle means that you're not going to see an increase or decrease. It's just going to be kind of like neutral. So for cards, problem solving is essentially how efficient they are when it comes to handling the bosses and all that. So once again, lower stars or lower numbers means that your property is kind of weak, and you might want to invest in more higher tier security guards. And for the safety influences, it pretty much deals with how much commotion you can expect to see depending on what day you enlist them in. And then for the advisors, once again, the ability rank is more of a tier, doesn't really have anything to do with the bosses, but you do want to focus on the support ability, which is their icon depending on the type of restaurants. And one more thing to note is that the stars for managers and guards, they deal with bosses, but for the advisor they don't. So hopefully that's a lot to comprehend, but hopefully you guys can understand what I'm saying. And now let's get to the fun part here. So basically you would want to open up your area and make sure you choose the correct staff. But I assume you guys already understand what I'm trying to say earlier on, so I'm not going to focus on this. But if I were to just paraphrase it briefly, if I'm given a choice between Hirata or Nagako, I'd probably choose Hirata because I see more consistency in the ones. Whereas if I choose someone like Nagako, for instance, I'm not going to see an increase at all. So he's not going to give me any money for 4 days, whereas someone like Hirata, I'd probably see an increase maybe the second and third day. So I'd probably have him over the other guy. And for the security, I'm given between Dada and how do you say his name, Yumatsu. So I'd probably choose Dana because even though there's more negatives, at least he has at least on the second day if I hire him, I will see a 1% increase. Whereas if I choose someone like Yumatsu, for instance, from the day 1 to day 4, I'm not going to see an increase, and then day 5, it's a -2. So, I'd probably choose Dada. So now let's get on to the source here. So finally, the stories, essentially, this is where the advisor is going to come into play. So once again, you want to focus on the red square here. So as you can tell, this icon is a dinery, or it's a restaurant. And if I'm given a choice between Takada or Chiba, I'd probably choose Takada because it shares a circle, meaning this is like a B and this is like a C. So I'd probably maximize more on Takada's restaurant expertise. And just for an experiment too, let's say if I want to choose Shiba, even though he's a triangle, even though he's not preferred or recommended, because this isn't his field of expertise, over someone like Takada who has more experience in restaurant dinery. Let's just see what happens if I choose Shiba, for instance. So as you can see, because Shiba isn't really good at restaurants, he's still a D tier, whereas if I choose someone like Takada, you can see that she easily ranks me up to a C. So once again, it's playing to your advisor's strengths. And also when you level up too, when you level up, for instance, so right now it went from a D to a C, you can see that the money increases, your percentage increases too, and your overall forecast increases. Basically, the end goal is to invest until you have all your properties of the Leisure King. So as you can see, these are his properties here. And you want to keep investing until they all become S ranks, because that means you'll get the most amount of money possible in this area. And after that, it's just a matter of collecting your collections, or it's a matter of collecting debts essentially. But make sure you double check the manager, the security, and their influences. This is more important if anything, because once again, when you're starting off, you want to focus more on the safety influences and the economic influences. Only focus on the financial savvy and the problem solving, or the numbers and the stars. When you start to make more progress, and you just say yes, and it's a matter of waiting, and then when you get the money back again, it's just buying more property, investing, and more or less, it's kind of repetitive at that point. But anyways, hopefully that does it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.